Good morning. I'm Charles Osgood, and this is Sunday Morning. 5 days after the terrorist attack, you can see, hear, and feel America rising. Although there are many deep wounds that will never heal, Americans everywhere are resolved and determined to rise to the occasion and to carry on. It is still too soon for us to absorb or take full measure of what happened this week. Even those directly involved experienced it not as a whole, but one moment, one person at a time. Martha Teichner will report our cover story.
We know it was a terrible day that changed everything. But how do we comprehend what happened to all those people smiling out at us from the missing posters? How do we explain the accident of survival or sudden heroism? This morning, we try.
That life will never be the same for those directly touched by this tragedy goes without saying. But it is very likely that life will never really be the same for the rest of us as well. Much of what we used to take for granted cannot be taken for granted anymore. Rita Braver will survey this new landscape.
It's not just about airline travel. It's about how safe we feel everywhere in our own country.
I always felt safe as an American, you know, protected. I think a lot of Americans are scared right now.
Later on Sunday morning, our nation changed forever. What lies ahead for all of us?
The hijacked airliners that toppled the World Trade Center struck the downtown of our biggest city. But the impact could be felt in many a small town. Bill Geist will tell us about his.
My hometown offers a magnificent view of New York's spectacular skyline. This past week, that view was radically and tragically altered. So was life in my town, until Tuesday, a refuge from the problems of the outside world.
We have much more still to tell you this morning, stories of hardship and courage, of resolution and hope. First, here are the headlines for this Sunday morning, September 16th, 2001. Sunday is no day of rest for weary searchers combing the rubble at the ruins of New York's World Trade Center. Byron Pitts joins us now. Good morning, Byron.
Good morning, Charles. Around 4 o'clock this morning, rescue teams heard a tapping sound coming from the debris. But since then, nothing. It was another difficult and dangerous night. It has become a city within a city. Workers sleep here, eat here. But as the hours pass and more debris is removed...
Can we find some firemen up there?
This 16-acre site of cement and steel and suffering is primarily a city of death.
What are you guys finding? Oh, torsos, legs.
Rescue worker Juan Sierra lost a boyhood buddy in Tuesday's disaster. Except for 5 survivors, he and the other volunteers have only found bodies. The body of 3 passengers still strapped in their seats. The body of a flight attendant, her arms bound.
Regular folk aren't supposed to see things like that. No, not at all. I'm not common folk right now. I don't feel common folk. I have a cause. I have a duty to do right now. As an American citizen.
They are citizen soldiers of sorts, fatigued but fighting. Even the search dogs are exhausted. Some 300 animals, many have needed IVs, and even they need a positive sign. Gerald Lauber with the SPCA.
They're very stressed. There are a lot of body parts, and they're distracted, and these dogs need reward, and the reward is finding somebody alive. If they don't get that reward, then they get depressed.
Depression and despair, and the beginning of what seems like an endless procession of funerals. Fire Department Chaplain Michael Judge died administering last rites to a fallen firefighter.
He was talking to God, and he was helping someone. Can you honestly think of a better way to die?
Pete Gansey was New York's fire chief, one of the first rescuers killed. His son, Chris, spoke at his funeral.
It gives my family some comfort that my father died the way that he would have wanted to, with his men. He wouldn't have it any other way. Pete Gansey was a fireman to the bitter end.
New York's mayor, Rudolph Giuliani.
When the tower came down, he got his men out, he sent them north, and he went south right into the danger to get more of them out. Get
them out. It is still the mission today.
There's people there alive. We have to get them out.
How can you still believe that at this point?
They're there. They did. I know they did.
This morning at Ground Zero, these are the official numbers. 159 people confirmed dead. 99 victims have been identified. 4,972 people still missing. Charles?
Correspondent Byron Pitts, thank you. We now know that there were efforts to keep Tuesday morning's tragedy from unfolding. Bob Orr can tell us about those. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Charles. Well, we do know now that as the attack unfolded in New York and Washington, the FAA and the military desperately tried to do something about it. Fighter jets were scrambled to New York and also to Washington. They were too late to do anything about the attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. The important thing is, at that point, there was one hijacked airplane left. That was United Airlines Flight 93. It was over western Pennsylvania. It had turned off critical radar information, but it was on a line for Washington. Administration sources tell us now that there was a high-level conference call convened at some point, and they were discussing their options. And at that moment, there were two F-16s, we were told, about 60 miles from that plane, armed with air-to-air missiles. Administration sources say if the plane had continued on to Washington, they were prepared to shoot down a civilian airliner. As we know now, the plane crashed in Pennsylvania. No decision had to be made, but all the planning indicated that the U.S. government was prepared to take an extraordinary action. Charles?
Bob Orr in Washington, thank you. President Bush and top administration officials meet again today at Camp David to plan their response to Tuesday's attack. For more on that, we turn to David Martin at the Pentagon. David?
Good morning, Charles. As I walked into the building this morning, you could see the offices of the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff were a beehive of activity, obviously further refining, drawing up plans for this new war on terrorism, while at the same time the recovery effort continues. They have now raised part of that roof which had collapsed, which will open up an area where they can probably find more bodies. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the Pakistani government says a Pakistani delegation will visit the Taliban rulers of Afghanistan tomorrow and demand that they turn over Osama bin Laden or else face U.S. retaliatory strikes. Now, the U.S. has been trying for years to pressure the Taliban into turning bin Laden over, and they have always refused. The hope, obviously, is now that there is the threat of military action. The Taliban will see this in a different light. Frankly, if the Taliban doesn't turn him over, the U.S. chances of getting bin Laden are very, very slim because it really does not know where he is on a day-to-day basis. Charles?
David Martin at the Pentagon, thank you. In a moment, America rising and an historic voyage that still goes on.
School has started all over our area, and getting your child ready every day makes your life busier than ever. So saving time is important. That's why 9 Eyewitness News this morning brings you exclusive instant weather and traffic. You'll know which roads to avoid and how to plan your day without the wait. Plus, you'll get expanded weather and traffic reports on the 9s. And with our new feature on local schools, you'll always stay informed. Ease your stress. Let 9 Eyewitness News this morning keep you on top of what's happening in your child's school. Weekdays from 5 to 7 a.m.
Want more from a sport utility? Test drive the all-wheel drive Subaru Outback. More ground clearance than a Ford Explorer Sport. More cargo space than a Jeep Cherokee. More miles per gallon than any leading midsize SUV. Add a smooth car-like ride and you have a sport utility with a whole lot more. Outback, the world's first sport utility wagon.
Now you can get an APR as low as 2.9% on all 2002 Outback models.
When it comes to trucks, Toyota has it all. Award-winning compact and full-size trucks. Tough, dependable, and including one of the most affordable trucks sold in America. Toyota, the right one for you.
The neighborhood I live in is not really a nice neighborhood. I want my kids to become someone instead of them hanging out in the street. So that's why I turned to the voucher program. It helps out a lot of low-income people. My kids can see that things are getting better by coming to the private school. Without a voucher program, there wouldn't be any options. I'm showing them now that they can be whatever they want to be.
Judge dedicated to justice.
The law, it's a balancing act. The only way that it works is if it works the same for all of us.
Compelling stories, as honest as it gets.
Objection.
We're done.
Emmy nominees Tyne Daly.
Stop that right now! This is bordering on abuse.
And Amy Brenneman.
If you get so much as a jaywalking ticket, you're going to be doing hard time before you can legally buy a beer. Understood?
Don't miss the season premiere of Judging Amy, CBS Tuesday, September 25th.
And now a page from our Sunday morning almanac, September 16th, 1620, 381 years ago today. The day the Mayflower, after a few false starts, set sail from England for the New World. For 2 months, the faith of the pilgrims on board was sorely tested by storm clouds and heavy seas. But nothing diminished their hope for a place to live freely, the life they chose. To that end, they signed the Mayflower Compact, the first document to establish a form of self-government in North America. In December, they finally stepped ashore to found the Plymouth Colony, a wilderness where life was hard, but to them, a haven. Many millions have followed over the centuries, each a pilgrim in his or her own way, all seeking to freely live the lives they chose. To be sure, storm clouds have sometimes threatened, and we find our own faith put to the test. But to this day, the hope of a free life in a new world still lives undimmed.
And to our children's children tell how good the Lord hath been. And to our children's children's children tell how good the Lord hath been. How good the Lord hath been. And to our children's children tell how good the Lord hath been.
Our Sunday morning almanac for September 16th, 2001. Ahead, our nation's will and determination tested anew. Martha Teichner will begin our coverage of America Rising.
Introducing new Kellogg's Special K Red Berry cereal. Crunchy sweet flakes, now with slices of real strawberries, right in the box. Looking good, never tasted so great. Kellogg's Special K Red Berries. It's new.
I'd like a latte, please.
Do you have an appointment? Grab a ticket. We'll be with you in just a minute. Yeah.
Coffee houses are popular. Very popular. Well, what if you just want coffee house style coffee in an instant? Folgers Cafe Latte. Rich, creamy, delicious coffee house coffee without the coffee house. So it's not the coffee you drink to take a break from your day. It's the coffee you drink to break into it. Folgers Cafe Latte.
Magazine? Book? Anybody?
Shocking tragedies have occurred and America is in mourning. A long period of uncertainty and recovery awaits us all. The American Red Cross is providing life-saving assistance, including precious blood, food, shelter, and grief counseling. We honor our heroic relief workers, victims, and their families. Please call 1-800-GIVE-LIFE to donate blood, or 1-800-HELP-NOW to offer financial support. Together, we can save a life.
With a new week about to begin, there is a sense of America rising. A new resolve and determination are in the air. We've begun to take our first steps away from those dreadful moments 5 mornings ago. Our cover story is reported now by Martha Teichner.
It was beautiful in New York City on Tuesday morning. Achingly, impossibly, incongruously beautiful. At 8:48, when the horror began. By now, we've seen the pictures over and over and over. The planes hitting. The towers collapsing.